Hello and welcome back to Let's Code Physics. We are continuing with our development of an FTL beam optimizer. This project has proven to be quite popular. Thank you to all the Redditors for coming over and taking a view and for leaving your feedback. Really appreciate it. Last time we successfully got the optimizer working for one of the scenarios that you might be interested in, and that is you've encountered an enemy ship in FTL and you want to maximize the number of rooms that a beam will hit. So for example, for this Mantis ship here, you might say that you want to maximize the number of rooms hit. Let's say you're using, let's say the glaive beam. You would click here to run the optimizer. I've added in a counter to tell you that the optimizer is running because it was just sitting there and then it got the spinning wheel of death. So this just kind of keeps the display updated so that you know, yes, it is making progress. It is working through the ship. And so this is the type of scenario that we looked at last time where you might be trying to maximize the number of rooms hit. That's not the only scenario that you would be looking for, but it's certainly sort of the default scenario. It's the one you typically want with most ships and most beams and in most situations. So what we're going to look at today is we're going to look at what I've done to expand the code to include 3 other options: maximizing the number of tiles hit, maximizing the damage with the whole beam, and which takes into account whether a room has a system or not, and maximizing the number of rooms hit with a specified room definitely hit. So if you need to take out the enemy's weapons or oxygen or something like that, you can make sure to definitely hit it with the beam. And so here it presents a little confirmation text that this is your winning beam, long live the Federation, and you can make changes and then click this to run it again. So this would be the winning beam in this situation where it's going to hit 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms. If you're an experienced FTL player, you probably have encountered that combination before, but you know, as you encounter different ships or as you use different mods that introduce different ship patterns, you can't necessarily rely on your previous experience, or you might encounter a scenario where you want to use one of those other optimization routines, or you might have it optimized for one beam but not necessarily for another beam. So you saw that took literally just a minute out of the out of your gameplay to run the optimizer. So the idea would be you could pause the game, Alt-Tab over to the optimizer, create the ship, run the optimizer, and the whole process takes just a couple of minutes. So we've already been over the basic structure of the code. It sets up some things at the beginning in terms of all the buttons and things that you can create. Sort of the main magic happens down here in the optimize routine. You'll notice that I've added some arguments to this function compared to last time. So you're passing in the list of the rooms that you want it to hit, the optimization option that you want, 1, 2, 3, or 0, depending on those different options that you can select, the number of rooms, the list of designated rooms for systemless rooms or room that you definitely want to hit, the length of the beam, which is automatically taken care of in the code. It's got all the beam lengths already programmed in, and it's got a new argument, run before, that tells you whether the code has been run before. That just tells the code whether it needs to delete the previous winning beam. That's all that does. And so the code is set up pretty much the same as it was before. It determines the rightmost bound of the range that you can go to, and the leftmost bound of the range that you can go to, and the topmost and bottommost bound of the range that it's considering beginning in. You'll notice that we are now adding in the here's where we add in the print statement about what percentage it's gone through. You'll notice we've also added in a check for whether the beam is starting in a room. So it's pointed out to me, that you can't start a beam not in a room, and in fact, there's not really a strategic reason to do that. So in order to cut down on the computation time, the code now runs a check on all the rooms to check whether the beginning of the beam is in the room. And basically, if it is in the room, then it goes over the rest of the loop. If it doesn't, then it skips over that, and again, it saves you a little bit of computer time there. And so then it goes through the rest of the code just like it did before. It's going to loop over the starting positions, loop over the angles. It's going to try every possible starting combination within the ship. It counts the number of hit rooms. So in order to take care of option 3, so this is where it hits a specific room, we set up this logical variable hit spec, which is equal to true if the specified room has been hit. It's equal to false if the specified room has not been hit. You notice it's only going to go through that if you've selected that optimization option. If you haven't selected it, it's not even going to worry about it. And so basically here it goes over, and again it checks over the list of the rooms to see whether they've been hit. And here it does its update. This was the piece that I messed up on last time, and it took me about an hour to find out that I needed to change these X's into Y's. It goes through the same type of check that it had before. While it's going through that, again, if the optimization option is 3, meaning if it's under the scenario of trying to hit a specified room, it's going to check for whether that room is the designated room. And then basically if it does hit that room, then it's going to set that equal to true. So keep that in mind. The hit spec means have you hit the specified room in that situation. Then the other scenario that we needed to incorporate was maximizing damage with the hull beam. So for the hull beam, it does twice as much damage to systemless rooms. So it has to count the systemless rooms different than the system full rooms. Systemed rooms? Rooms with system? The other ones. The ones that have little icons in them. And so what it's doing there is it's saying, okay, by default, your score is going to increase by 1 up here, because when you hit a room, you get at least 1 damage. And then if the room is in the designated list, so for this option, desig list is being used for systemless rooms, then it increases the score by another 1. So basically, a systemless room is going to count double toward the score. Right. And then we come down to here, and basically down here is where it checks for that second scenario where, excuse me, where if the specified room has not been hit, right? So if not hit spec, meaning if the specified room has not been hit, then it reduces the score to 0. It's not even going to consider that beam. It might have done a whole lot of damage, but it didn't hit the room that you specified that you wanted, and so it's going to reduce the score to 0. It's not going to consider it. And then it goes through the same thing here. It checks for whether the score has exceeded the max score. It records the best combination. And then at the very end, it prints out the winning beam. It creates that on the display. Now you'll notice I went through, so I've shown you how it optimizes the number of rooms hit. I've shown you how it optimizes number of rooms hit with a specified room definitely hit, and I've showed you how it handles the scenario of the hull beam trying to maximize the damage by taking into account systemless rooms. I haven't showed you yet how it takes into account maximizing the number of tiles. And the reason I'm sort of holding out on that for dramatic purposes is because I'm actually kind of proud of how I programmed this in, because I was thinking about, my gosh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to get it to tell it where the tiles are, etc.? But then I figured out all I have to do is treat the tiles as if they were each rooms, and then run the code treating tiles like rooms. Here's how it does that. So if optimization option equals 2, so this is when it goes to run the optimizer, option 2 is where it maximizes the number of tiles hit, for example, for the fire beam or the anti-bio beam, where you want to try to hit tiles, not necessarily rooms. What it does is it creates a new list called tile list. So you'll have a room list and you'll have a tile list. And basically what it does is it goes through all the rooms and it adds to the tile list the tiles of each room. So for a 2x2 room, it adds 4 tiles to the list. For a 1x2 room, it adds 2. For a 2x1 room, it adds 2 to the tile list. So it's creating a list of tiles, and it's making these boxes. Now, you're not going to see those boxes appear because I've set the visible option equal to false. So you're just going to see the ship like normal. You'll see the rooms all outlined and everything, but there's this invisible layer of tiles over it. And what it does is, instead of passing the room list to the optimizer, it passes the tile list to the optimizer. And so all it does is it runs the same code. It's just treating now each tile as a separate room. I thought that was kind of clever. Maybe that was an obvious way to do it. Maybe you'd already figured out that that would be the way to do it. Maybe you have a better way to do it. I don't know. But I thought that was kind of neat. It's always nice to be able to kind of take a subroutine that you've already written and reuse it for other purposes. It's always, nice and handy, because then you don't have to spend as much time creating something new. And let's see, that's basically all the changes I made to it. Everything else, I believe, runs the same. All of the, event picking and everything runs the same. So let's go back over to our Mantis ship here. Let's suppose that we weren't interested in that scenario. Let's suppose we did want to maximize the number of tiles hit, right? And let's see, so probably for consistency's sake, I need to use I shouldn't use the same beam because you wouldn't be doing this for the fire beam. Let's suppose now you've got the fire beam, so you're trying to maximize the number of tiles hit because you're trying to maximize the number of fires that you create. So again, you can click this to run again. It's going to clear that, and now again it's going to show you the percentages. You notice that this one is moving more slowly because it's having to consider each tile separately instead of considering each room like as a chunk. And now it's to consider each tile separately. So I will probably cut here and see you back in just a second. Okay, so here we're back with the finished run. You notice it came out very different orientations. This is maximizing the number of tiles. So you'd want your beam to start here. So you can hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tiles. So that's a pretty good run with a fire beam. You've got fires going on in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rooms. That's pretty cool. The other scenario, the next scenario, let's say you wanted to specify a room to hit. So for example, let's say you're working with let's go back to the glaive beam maybe. And let's say you wanted to specify that it's got to hit this, let's see, this is usually the transporter bay down here. Let's say you definitely want it to hit the transporter bay. You click here. So now this room is designated to hit. You can tell that by the inversion of the colors. And so this is going to run again with the glaive beam. And let's click to run again. Let's see, we are climbing up decently with the percentage. Again, I will cut here and I'll see you in a second. Okay, so the code finished running, and here is the results for if we've got the glaive beam. Remember, we had the glaive beam at the beginning, I think it was. And so here it is definitely hitting the transporter room down here, or whichever the bottom room happens to be that you definitely want to hit. So it's got a little bit different orientation. Last time it recommended going this way. This time it's recommending going this way to make sure that it strikes this room. Now this is where I do need to make a little bit of an adjustment, because if you definitely wanted to hit that room, you would want the beam to start there so that if the shields come back up, it definitely hits that room and gets cut off later on. Thank you to the Redditors who pointed that out. So what I'd like to be able to do is later on is have the code sort of slide this beam up this way to indicate to you to start in this upper corner rather than this lower corner. But generally experienced FTL players know to do that. Remember, this is just sort of a guide to say, here is a way that you can get it. Here is a way to say, yes, you can definitely get that room and 3 other rooms to maximize the number of rooms hit. The last scenario we'll take a look at, and then I want to actually, whoops, I went the wrong way there. Oh well, sorry. I clicked on the wrong thing. The next thing is maximizing the damage with the hull beam. So I want to do this, and then I want to actually open up FTL and give this a try in the game, just to give you an idea of how it works. So I think I'll go with I'm going to go with the Zoltan A because it starts out with a beam. That way I don't have to go and find a beam. So you notice when I clicked on this to maximize the damage with the hull beam, it tells me it now defaults to this option to the hull beam, because there's no point in taking into account systemless rooms for a non-hull beam. And so here we're going to click to identify systemless rooms. Let's suppose that the systemless rooms were these 2 up near the top here. So now it's taking these 2 as systemless rooms. The rest of them we're going to assume have some kind of system in them. That depends on the ship that gets generated. And let's click here to run the optimizer again. So this thing will chug along, and I'll see you in a second. Okay, so our code has run, and it has come up with this configuration for the hull beam. So I was curious whether it would try to hit both of these rooms, but I guess based on the length of it, it could hit both of those rooms, and it would do a damage of 2, 4, 5, but here it's doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there it gets you your maximized damage with the hull beam. Cool. So I should mention before we move on, so the code for this optimizer is available in the description below this video. But of course, if you don't want to have to install Python and run Python every time you want to play FTL, if you just want to have the program to run, I'm also putting a link to a standalone executable. It'll come with some documentation just to remind you how to use the code, although I hope the graphical user interface is pretty self-explanatory. So there'll be a standalone executable. I've gotten it to work for Windows. If I figure out a way to get it to work for Mac or Linux, I will gladly post that. But for right now, it'll be a Windows-only executable. Sorry, I don't have access to Macintosh equipment, so I haven't gotten that done yet. So I would love your feedback from using this in conjunction with the game. If you want to record a video of you playing the game and using this, would love to see it in action, would love to see how it works out. You can also tweet your successes or failures to @Let'sCodePhysics. Or if you want to discuss the optimizer on Reddit and suggest other ideas, I've posted a couple of topics to this, and I'll be posting this video as well to the FTL game subreddit, so I hope to see you there. So what I'd like to do next is show you how you might use the beam optimizer in a game of FTL. I've started with the Zoltan A, since it starts out with the halberd beam. What we're going to do is, first we're going to build the ship that we're fighting here. So I need to create it one room at a time. Let's see, I need to add this systemless room here. And this ship ought to be interesting since it's got that gap there in the middle right portion. So it'll be interesting to see how the optimizer manages that arrangement. Let's see, there we go. I think I've got everything there. And let's see, this thing has a missile, so I would particularly be interested in hitting the missile room, or excuse me, the weapons room. So let's hit the room there. Let's tell it that we're using the halberd beam, and let's click and run the optimizer. So one trick I have learned is that while the code is running, you can let your beam weapon charge. I'm not too worried about those weapons hit since I have a Zoltan shield. My halberd is charged. I'm going to pause again and let the code finish up here. I've already done this a few times with a few trials, and I've already figured out a few features that I need to add to the code. One is that I need to add a clear button that will sort of reset the field here in terms of the rooms and the options. I also need a way for you to clear the designated room. Currently, the only way to clear the designation from this room is to either cycle through the options up here or to delete this room and put it back. So those are a couple of things that I'll work on. I'm going to go ahead and post the code as it currently is because I know folks are interested in using it. And then I'll probably post an update later. Okay, so this would be the ideal trajectory here. It's going to hit 1, 2, 3, 4 rooms, and it's definitely going to hit the weapons room. You notice this is one of those cases where I should have the beam slid up into the right a little bit, so that's another feature I'll work on, just so that way the beam, cuts across the rooms as quickly as possible in case the shields are coming back up. I don't worry about that too much with the halberd beam since that can cut through shields. Oh, and that's actually hitting another room, isn't it? Oh yeah, that is hitting the 2x2 room. I didn't realize that. So let's see. So I'm going to go up this way. 1, 2, 3, 4. I believe that matches my optimizer. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's kind of nice to know that I'm not going to be able to get this room and the oxygen room, or else it would have given me that configuration. So let's unpause. And oh, that is a thing of beauty. We will actually let's go ahead and finish off the ship with the Leto missile. Doesn't really matter where I fire as long as the Leto hits. There we go. Cool. So a first successful battle with the optimizer. That is wonderful. Okay, so here we're in our second battle. It actually has the same arrangement as the first ship. So actually, let's go ahead and get things firing to take care of their Zoltan shield. Let's see, what room would I really like to hit with this? I suppose I'll go for weapons again. Let's actually have the Leto take out their shields to maximize damage with a halberd beam. Oh, and they've got some extra buffs on that shield. Let's actually go to the kind of the standard, the maximum number, not the maximum number of tiles, maximum number of rooms hit, and we'll take this through to the halberd beam. And yeah, let's see, because last time we were definitely trying to hit the weapons. I'm not too worried about their weapons here, you know, in case they have a misfire or a mistiming between their laser and their beam. So this time I'm just going to give it free reign to maximize the number of rooms hit, because for the halberd beam that'll maximize the amount of damage. Oh yeah, they're not timing those very well. This really, you know, this project has really given me a respect for you know, programming how the enemy decides to attack in a video game, because it is not straightforward. I mean, you think about all the options that we had to consider. And then you would have to build in an engine to choose between those options, you know, if we were writing it for the bad guy's side. Okay. It actually wants me to go I think that's pretty much along the same path, isn't it? Okay. Well, we'll start in the piloting to take care of their evade. This is telling me that I can hit 4 rooms, and it's nice to know that 4 is simply the best that I can get for this beam ship combination. And let's go ahead and Leto their weapons. There we go. Just so I have one fewer things to worry about. And then we'll have the halberd beam repeat that. But anyway, yeah, it's nice to know that, you know, I don't have to sit there and click and drag around 100 different times just to try to get, you know, one more room. It's nice to know that that is the maximum number of rooms that I can get, and it's pretty cool. Okay, so here we've got a different ship. This ship is very asymmetric, so it'll be interesting to see how that impacts the way the optimizer performs. Let's see. I need to get these in the correct location. There we go. I need another horizontal room here. I need a vertical room here, and then a vertical room here. I suppose the next stage to this code's development would be to see if I could do a screen capture of the ship, and then it automatically creates the ship arrangement in the optimizer. That would be pretty interesting, but not really in my skill set right now. They have a drone room, but I don't see what drone they have. So I think we're gonna go with let's specify hitting their weapons, because I always worry over missiles. So let's say we definitely want to hit this weapon room here. We still have the halberd beam, and we are going to run the optimizer. So I'll probably cut here and then come back when it's done. So I mentioned earlier a few changes that I wanted to make to the code. Another thing I want to look into is this trick that's recently been posted to Reddit, where if you fire the beam directly along the seam between rooms, you'll hit all the rooms on either side. There's been some debate over how reproducible or how easy that is, so I'm not putting that in right now, but in a future update I'll put that in. Let's see. Looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rooms. Awesome. Did not know I could do that. According to this, I need to start in the systemless room here, and I can cut across to all 5 of these. Yes, I can. Wonderful. Yeah, and we'll have it start over here so that we'll hit the weapons. I mean, not that it really matters, we'll hit the weapons first. Oh, and I am still waiting for my halberd to charge. So how about we fire a missile at the weapons in the meantime? Wonderful. Took down the laser beam, which doesn't do me a whole lot of good. Here goes the halberd. Okay, cool. So I've done some damage to the weapons. Let's pretend for a second that I had taken out the weapons. Let's change it back now to maximizing the number of rooms hit. So I'm not really trying to win so much here as I am trying to demonstrate to you the possible uses of the code. So like I said, I'm going to look into this beam in between rooms trick. I'll probably post it as a future update. I would like to continue this series about the FTL beam optimizer. It's been really popular. Thank you to everybody who came over from Reddit to watch this in action. One of the things I'd like to do though is I would like to move on to another. Series related to, I don't mind going ahead and telling you, related to the release of Star Wars Episode 7 on DVD and Blu-ray. I'd like to do a series about examining what it would physically take to construct a lightsaber. So we kind of have this, this famous dichotomy between we really want lightsabers to exist, but we're pretty sure that they violate the laws of physics. Well, I'm going to make a code that says, well, let's assume you can make a lightsaber. What kind of setup would you need for it? So I'll be exploring that through some computational techniques. So would love to have you join us for that. That'll be on Fridays for our Fun Fridays. So I might be releasing that and some more FTL updates simultaneously. So let's see. Here I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So another combination of 5 rooms. Cool. According to this, I can start here and end up hitting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. Let's let the halberd go. And that is pretty exciting. Awesome. Let's see if we can get one more battle in before calling it a day. Okay, so we've gotten ourselves into another battle here. My new hull laser is unfortunately useless. Well, no, I've got my Zoltan shield up for now. So let's let those charge. I need to create this ship over here. So I need a few vertical rooms. Yeah, I definitely need that. Well, I don't know. I feel like the clear button would be helpful, but then again, I usually end up reusing these rooms. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'll put in a clear button, and of course you don't have to use it unless you find it particularly useful. Come on now. I'm having a little bit of a trouble with the snapping. I think it has to deal with whenever you're in the negative X or negative Y side of the axis. So I'm going to look into that and post an update to that. Let's see. There goes that. And I need one more vertical. And come on now. There we go. Okay, so I got 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 1, 2. Cool. So now I need to delete the rooms that I don't need. Awesome. And you know what? I'm not too worried about anything particular here. Let's just go with maximizing the number of rooms hit. It is running the optimizer. Yeah, I'll probably cut here and see you in a second. All right, and here's our winning beam to hit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rooms. So it needs to start here and go up. Okay, cool. So it needs to start here and go. Oh, yes, I can reach 5. Awesome. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I would have settled for 4 if I were just playing without the optimizer. Awesome, awesome. So yeah, so this has been a pretty big success. I am pretty happy with it. Like I said, I hope you'll give the optimizer a try. Do please give me feedback. I would love to, to adapt this in ways that the FTL community sees as helpful. And like I said, if you would like to make any change to the code, it is available for download there in the description. Would love to hear some feedback on changes you would make to it. In the meantime, I am going to finish off this rock vessel. And again, I thank you so much for watching. We will see you next time. Bye-bye. And bye-bye to the rock vessel, too.